Believe it or not, we're about 1/3 of the way through the PlayStation 5's life cycle, and now that there's been 2 enormous supply chain shortages, it's now almost not a complete headache to try and get your hands on one. The PS5 is one hell of a piece of kit, no matter how ugly its form factor might be, delivering cutting-edge new-gen gaming experiences while offering a bevy of quality-of-life features for those already invested in the PlayStation ecosystem. Yet try as Sony might, it's difficult for them to loudly toot the horn for every single one of the console's awesome bells and whistles, enough that you surely aren't aware of every last thing the PS5 is capable of. Plus, Sony's made the PS5 even more feature-rich since release, as a ton of system updates have added some long-requested tweaks and fixes. These things might not change your gaming life, but in terms of time-saving, accessibility, and simply having more options to play however you want, they're all well worth checking out. I'm Jess from WhatCulture, and here are 10 things you didn't know your PS5 could do. Number 10. Block spoiler content from the home screen. Shortly before the PS5's release, it was ironically leaked that Sony had patented a spoiler blocking system that would prevent players from accidentally stumbling across unwanted plot information for games. And while Sony has bafflingly kept the feature pretty low-key, it is implemented. If you want to, you can block things from your feed that might have photos or videos that spoil things in the games that you're playing. Go to Settings, Save Data, and Game/App Settings, then Spoiler Warnings, and you'll be able to hide content that's either been flagged as a spoiler by the game's developer or is simply a part of the game that you yourself haven't reached yet. This will ensure you'll be able to enjoy those awesome boss fights and surprise plot twists without anything being given away by a thoughtless pal beforehand. With spoiler culture being what it is these days, this feels like an absolute must. Number 9. Use 3D audio without Sony's headset. One of the PS5's most hyped up features was its Tempest Engine 3D audio, which allows players using Sony's Pulse 3D wireless headset to experience an unprecedented level of immersion, as sound effects will be heard from both a realistic direction and distance. But you needn't throw down the cash for Sony's nifty headset to benefit from the technology, as a 2021 system update allowed players to translate 3D audio to both their existing speaker setup and any other set of headphones. In the PS5 sound menu, you can find an option for 3D audio for TV speakers, where you can calibrate your own setup to replicate 3D audio. And with the 3D audio for headphones option, you're also able to test it out on any pair of headphones you've got lying around. Mileage will certainly vary depending on your equipment. Don't expect miracles from tinny TV speakers or a cheap headset, but for anyone seeking out a more tactile gaming experience, it's at least worth trying out. On games like Demon's Souls, Returnal, and The Last of Us Part 1, this is an absolute must-have. Number 8. Share your screen with a friend. Gaming is more social and communal than it's ever been, and Sony has leaned hard into this with the PS5, enough that you're able to share your screen with whoever you like. By going to the game-based menu in the control center, you're able to start sharing your screen with a friend or party of up to 99 people, allowing them to view a video stream of whatever you're playing. More to the point, they can use picture-in-picture to pin it to their own screen while playing their own game. Beyond being a fun social feature that allows friends to play their own separate games while seeing what their pal is up to, it can also be immeasurably helpful during squad-based multiplayer games like Call of Duty, as teammates can use the feature to get an alternate vantage point on the action. Combined with voice chat, it creates a greater feeling of presence with your friends, even if you're hundreds or thousands of miles away from each other. Number 7. Use the DualShock 4 for PS4 games. Though Sony made it abundantly clear prior to the PS5's release that you can't use your PS4's DualShock 4 controllers to play PS5 games due to the advanced hardware specs of the DualSense controller, that doesn't mean they're destined to become dusty relics forevermore. You can still use the DualShock 4 if you're playing a PS4 game, and this is particularly useful if that PS4 game happens to be co-op, because then you can use the DualShock and you can use the DualSense. So while this perhaps won't be something you'll do all that often on PS5, it's still nice to know that the DualSense 4 works perfectly fine when playing PS4 games on the system. Number 6. Turn the DualSense off with the press of a button. The PS5's DualSense is inarguably one of the best controllers ever made. It's a veritable Swiss Army knife of tactile feedback, comfort, and functionality. Sony has attempted to streamline as many of the console's interface options as possible through the PS5, though because they barely talked about it, you might not know that you can indeed turn the DualSense off with the long press of a single button. While many have surely spent the last 2+ years opening the PS5 system menu to turn the controller off, you can cut this step out entirely by simply holding down the DualSense's PS button for 10 seconds. This is a great way to conserve the power-hungry controller's battery, and though it was also a feature in prior generations of PlayStations, it's not something that Sony are touting loud enough for the PS5, so we gotcha. Number 5, selective installs. It's no secret that video game installs are getting a little bit nuts, with a bunch pressing up to that 200GB mark, and it's causing some problems. It's more important than ever then that players are given the options for what to install wherever possible, and so certain games, namely Call of Duty, allow you to install only the single player or multiplayer portion of the game, so you can save precious space on the PS5's rather stingy 825GB internal SSD. It's admittedly still a pretty underused feature, despite Sony promising that there'd be more granularity to it prior to the PS5's release. But all the same, not forcing players to install tens or even hundreds of gigs of unwanted data, at considerable time and bandwidth cost no less, is very useful indeed. Number 4, use a keyboard and mouse. Another unsung PS4 feature which carried over to the PS5 is the ability to use a mouse and keyboard instead of a controller, as will be a matter of preference in games like Call of Duty Warzone, Fortnite, City Skylines, and Final Fantasy XIV. The PS5 supports wired mouse and keyboards through USB, wireless through a USB dongle, and via Bluetooth. This ensures a large number of modern consumer mouse and keyboard setups should work with the console. While you miss out on the DualSense's awesome haptics if you go this route, for some games a mouse and keyboard just feels more intuitive. Plus, options are always a good thing. To connect a mouse and keyboard, go to the Settings and then Accessories sub-menu and follow the prompts depending on the device you're using. Number 3, stream to Steam Deck. It's no secret that, like the PS4, the PS5 has remote play functionality, allowing players to stream their console to a phone, tablet, laptop, or desktop, whether using home Wi-Fi or a mobile data connection. But with the release of Valve's Steam Deck last year, many considered the possibilities of using the incredible handheld hybrid to play PS4 games and PS5 games through remote play. While there's unfortunately no out-of-the-box compatibility with Sony's Remote Play app, it didn't take long for some very smart people to come up with a workaround. A deck-specific app which allows you to stream both the PS4 and PS5 to it. Chiki 4 Deck is quite frankly a magical piece of software that you absolutely need if you happen to have a Steam Deck and a PS5 in your life. After just a few minutes of setup, you'll be able to boot the PS5 directly from your deck, giving you easy access to your PS5 wherever you are, with the added benefit of a built-in ergonomic controller layout that phones, tablets, and computers simply don't have. And while we all love the 4K HDR capabilities of the PS5, for anyone trying to play in a different room of their house or on the go, this is an absolute game changer. Number 2, Discord voice chat. Ever since the PS5 was announced, players have been requesting Discord voice chat integration, given how pervasively it's used across gaming platforms, allowing players to party up regardless of what hardware they're using. And though Sony took their sweet time figuring it out, they did finally reveal in a recent system update that Discord is now supported. The integration allows players to transfer a Discord call from their PC or mobile device to the PS5. And though the implementation is still missing some crucial features, it's an encouraging first step regardless. Hopefully in the coming months, Sony will release a more comprehensive updated version of Discord, just as Microsoft did for the Xbox. But in the very least, being able to chat on the PS5 to gamers who are on other ecosystems is massively useful. Number 1, turn off trophy capture to save space. Again, those still relying on the PS5's rather small internal SSD need to be ruthless with conserving storage. And an incredibly easy way to do that, turn off trophy captures. By default, the PS5 will take a screenshot and record 15 seconds of 4K footage every time you pop a trophy. And while the individual file size might not seem like much, they really add up. If you've not touched this feature since the PS5's launch, you've likely got gigabytes of pictures and videos you've probably never once looked at. So visit Capture and Broadcast on the console settings menu and you're able to toggle both screenshots and videos on and off. It'd be nice to see more granularity in the future, like if you could hang on to your platinums but maybe get rid of the bronzes and silvers, but at the very least, if you really need that hard drive space, this is a no-brainer. That's the end of our list, but let me know down in that comment section if you can think of anything else the PS5 can do that the people need to know. As always, I've been Jess from WhatCulture. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. If you like, you can come say hi to me on my Twitter account where I'm @JessMcDonnell, but make sure you stay tuned to us here for plenty more great gaming lists.